Hello and welcome to episode 125 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows, and everything in between. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That is linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. I am on Twitch. I am on YouTube. I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram. I am on Threads and Blue Sky. And you can find this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio. All of those places should contain this very podcast. This is our final regular episode of the podcast for 2024. We have made it. The please wrap it up sign is happening somewhere, like an awards acceptance speech that has gone on for too long. The please wrap it up sign is flashing so brightly. I am blinded by the lights, but until we go gently into the good night, that is the end of 2024, let's do ourselves a service and let's talk about some dang video games. We got a huge amount of news to get through today. We're going to cover all the winners of the 2024 Game Awards. We're also going to cover as many of the major announcements as we possibly can. I got to be honest, there are some that just aren't doing it for me. There are some that I just whatever. So we will not cover everything. And then we also have some news and maybe some ideas of what we can expect for 2025. I know the idea of 2025 is rapidly approaching. We're also going to do kind of a primer for the Game of the Year podcast that I am going to do next week, so you can find all of that information out when it's happening, what's going on. It's going to be, I might actually have to change dates now that I think about it. I may need to do it on the Thursday, the Boxing Day Thursday, instead of the Friday. Though, you know, hey, maybe by the time we're done this, I might just push it back to January. You never know. But that is the plan for right now, because there will not be a regularly scheduled episode of the podcast next week. Again, a reminder, next week is Christmas. We are 1 week away from Christmas. I will be too busy celebrating Christmas to do a podcast, so there will be no regular episode of the podcast for next week. So just please keep that in mind. That's all I ask, is that you keep that in mind to the best of your ability, because I will not be in and around to do anything with the podcast. So let's get this straight. We got the podcast stuff, the Game Awards stuff. We're setting that up to talk about. We've kind of covered what we can expect on the podcast and what we can expect next week as it pertains to the content and stuff. And also as a reminder, if you have not done so already, head on over to YouTube. My New Year New Vegas playthrough of Fallout New Vegas episode 1 is up now. That is about a 2.5 hour episode up now on YouTube, if you would like to go check that out. And it's been doing well compared to some of my other game videos, like game videos of me playing games on YouTube. So it's really awesome to see. That series is going to continue now and into the new year, because New Year New Vegas is a game that I am not, New Vegas, is not going to be a game that I finish anytime soon. So that's going to be something that I continue to play through on Fridays. Fallout Fridays are happening over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt. But like I said, you can also catch that on YouTube if you would like. Really enjoying that so far. Like I said, we're very early into the game and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's a great reminder that Fallout New Vegas is still the best Fallout game. What else do we need to talk about? Any other housekeeping news to discuss? I watched the first episode of Secret Level. That is the video game anthology TV series. And I got to be honest, going into it, I was incredibly skeptical, because most video game adaptations turned into film or TV are bad. They always have been. And to an extent, I'm still convinced they always will be. Say what you will about The Last of Us and Fallout, and maybe to a lesser extent the Super Mario Brothers movie or the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. But great, you can use one hand to name all of the good video game adaptations. Way to go. Okay, if we just break, okay, hold on. If we do the math, The Last of Us TV show, 1, Fallout, 2, the Super Mario Brothers movie, 3. We're just going to wrap up Sonic into 1. So we'll just say Sonic is 4. And what's the 5th? Mortal Kombat. Well, that's a low bar. So excuse me if I was a little cynical going into this about Secret Level, but I watched the first episode, and the first episode is not even about a video game. It's about Dungeons and Dragons, which in fairness, Dungeons and Dragons have made video games. Or in fact, we're going to talk Dungeons and Dragons games in just a moment. But I was pleasantly surprised. I think the anthology shorter episode series has a lot of potential. I think it's going to work really well. The next, I think episode 2 is Sifu, a game I have not played. Have always meant to play it. I should probably get around to playing Sifu at some point in time, but that first episode, great animation. I think it tells a really fun story, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I guess we'll just get into news now and say that Secret Level has already been confirmed for a season 2. Amazon has renewed the video game anthology series Secret Level for season 2. This is being reported by Variety, being picked up by Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. Season 1 of the adult animated series features 15 original stories set within the worlds of various video game series. 8 episodes premiered on December 10th, so they did do a slight rollout for it. So 8 episodes were on December 10th, and the remaining 7 were already released. Created by Tim Miller, who had previously worked on the director of Deadpool. Tim Miller also did Terminator Dark Fate, as well as Love, Death, and Robots. There is a huge cast of voice actors on Secret Level. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. We'll just say, including the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kevin Hart, Keanu Reeves, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Laura Bailey, to name a few, and includes such titles as Dungeons & Dragons Sifu, New World, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer 40k, Pac-Man, Crossfire, Armored Core, The Outer Worlds, Mega Man, Exodus, Spelunky, Honor of Kings, and the PlayStation game that everyone's talking about, Concord. Yes, there is a Concord episode in Secret Level. I'm curious to see how that turns out. All right, let's get into the Game Awards. I'm going to give a huge shout out to Kotaku for a moment, because I was looking for a nice, clean, and clear list of the winners for the Game Awards. And if you go to the Game Awards website, you have to click through each category on its own. And I am not about that life. I do not want to click if I can help it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through starting with most anticipated game. We're going to go through all of the winners for the Game Awards. So if you didn't watch the Game Awards, good news, you don't have to. I'm going to save you like 3-4 hours of your life, however long it was. And I'm just going to run through the winners right now, and then we're going to run through the announcements. So let's do it. Most anticipated game, the nominees were Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 and Beyond. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't know if I really want to go through every nominee, but maybe we should for just context. The winner for most anticipated game was Grand Theft Auto 6, to nobody's surprise. Best adaptation, Secret Level did not come out in time to be nominated for best adaptation. I don't know if it'd be considered one way or the other, but for context, Secret Level is not in the best adaptation nominees list because it just simply didn't come out in time for consideration. But the nominees for best adaptation were Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, that is the Paramount Plus TV series about Knuckles the Echidna. You also have Like a Dragon, Yakuza, and Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft. And the winner of best adaptation was Fallout. Well deserved. I think Fallout is one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptation TV shows out there. I think it may just give The Last of Us a run for its money, though I still don't think that anything in Fallout comes close to being as good as episode 3 of The Last of Us. I've talked about episode 3 of The Last of Us. It's beautiful, makes you cry. It's an incredible episode. And I really shouldn't be comparing apples to oranges here, but hey, Fallout won for best adaptation. Best multiplayer, we had Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. The winner for best multiplayer was Helldivers 2. I could have seen maybe Black Ops, but no, the thing about Helldivers is, hey, it is a multiplayer game. Best sports / racing game. You will notice that there is only one racing game on here, and some of these sports games aren't even really based on sports. Your nominees were F1 2024, EA Sports Football Club 25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, and WWE 2K24, and the winner was EA Sports FC 25. Best simulation / strategy game. This is a very weird one because not a lot of these games are actually that related. They're all very, very different niches of the simulation or strategy genre. I think this is a really tough genre to properly define and represent, but nonetheless, here are the nominees. Nominees were Age of Mythology, Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord, with the winner being Frostpunk 2. Best family game, we had Astrobot, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, The Plucky Squire, Princess Peach Showtime, and Super Mario Party Jamboree, a nominee list that was dominated by your friends of mine at Nintendo, but the winner ended up being Astrobot. For best fighting game, I remember best fighting game being on the pre-show, and I just thought, like, man, the fighting games deserve better than to be on the pre-show. You know, I get like having the esports category and the content of the creator of the year category. Like, who gives a fuck about esports or these people, these content creators? Like, who gives a shit? Fighting games, however, fighting games are good and they deserve some respect, damn it. And the nominees for best fighting game were Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, Multiverses, and Tekken 8, with Tekken 8 taking it as the winner. Best role-playing game, we had Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Remember, Shadow of the Erdtree is a DLC expansion for Elden Ring. You have to own the game and you have to have made a certain amount of progress in Elden Ring to even access that content. But nonetheless, it was nominated. Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. For best role-playing game, the winner goes to Metaphor ReFantazio. Best action / adventure game. The nominees were Astrobot, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, and Star Wars Outlaws, with the winner being Astrobot. Best action game went like this. The nominees were Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. The winner being Black Myth Wukong. We're going to talk about Black Myth Wukong in a moment. Boy. Best virtual reality / augmented reality game. Who cares? Best mobile game. AFK Journey. Best mobile game. The nominees were AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon trading card game, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. And the winner for best mobile game went to Balatro. Best debut indie game. This is for the first timers out there making a game, an indie game in that space. The nominees were Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and The Plucky Squire. And the winner of best debut indie game went to Balatro. Best independent game, we had Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. The difference is that this can include, returning game developers that would not qualify for best debut indie game, but made a good indie game nonetheless. And the winner of best independent game was Balatro. For best community support, we had Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. The winner for best community support went to Baldur's Gate 3. Best ongoing game, these are games that are continuing to receive updates. The nominees were Destiny 2, The Final Shape, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2, with Helldivers 2 winning Best Ongoing Game. Games for Impact. These are games that kind of focus on social commentary and social consciousness. It's probably the best way to describe it. I'm not saying these games are woke, but if we had to give an award for wokest game, I guess it would be this category, though I think that's really doing these games a disservice. The nominees were Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Senua Saga, Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zao, with the winner for Games for Impact going to Neva. Innovation in accessibility. These are for games, excuse me, I'm losing my voice already. This is for games that, are trying to be as accessible as possible to a wider range of players than ever before through control schemes and sound and video options and all of that stuff. I'm not an expert in accessibility, but it's the best way I can describe it. The nominees for innovation and accessibility were Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. The winner was Prince of Persia The Lost Crown. Now, if you're waiting for GnittWitt to butcher a bunch of people's names, you have come to the right time in the episode. This is the nominees for Best Performance. The nominees were Brianna White for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell for Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez for Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts for Silent Hill 2, and Melina Jergens for Senua Saga Hellblade 2. And the winner is Melina Jergens for Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Best Audio Design, we had Astrobot, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2, with the winner going to Senua Saga Hellblade 2. We still got a couple more. Hang in there. We're almost done. Best Score / Music, we had Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade, with the winner going to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think that is tough between Metaphor and Final Fantasy, but I do like that Final Fantasy VII music. I just haven't had a chance to hear it in the new game. Best Art Direction. This one I disagreed with for a couple of reasons, but whatever. Your nominees were Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. It went to Metaphor ReFantazio, and I just don't think the art style has particularly held up incredibly well as Atlas continues to make these games. It's not what I come to those games for, and it'd be cool to see if they could update and improve their art direction for their next couple of games. We'll see how that goes. Best Narrative, we had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. The winner for Best Narrative went to Metaphor ReFantazio. For Best Game Direction, we had Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio, with Astrobot winning Game Direction. And the Game of the Year, numero uno. The nominees were Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And we'll find out who the Game of the Year winner is after these short messages. No, I'm just kidding. Game of the Year went to Astrobot. So there you have it. All of the winners. Every single category that mattered. No offense to esports and content creator of the year. I gotta say, it's really awesome to see Balatro pick up three wins across independent game, best debut indie game, and best mobile game. I think that the PC version of Balatro is probably the best version, just being able to click and drag with the mouse. And the phones are a little small, but on a tablet works out really great. I really would have liked to have seen Balatro win either Best Game Direction or Game of the Year, if I'm being totally honest. There's just something about like the weird cosmic vibes and the singular specific focus that Balatro brings to the table, being primarily developed by one person. I think is incredibly strong for that sense of direction. but nonetheless, Astrobot kind of taking it with a lot of that stuff. And in fairness, Astrobot made by a very small team, and it's the type of game that does not get made a lot these days. And it's a game that really, is a love letter to Sony's past. And it is a game that is not necessarily reflective of where Sony is heading as a company. So it's almost this like weird game out of time. I'll give you another example. If you watch the Oscars, one of the things that the Oscars, the Academy Awards, really likes to do is celebrate itself. So you think about movies that are about movies, or movies that are about certain historical figures. And those tend to do really, really well at the Academy Awards, because you get a lot of people within the Academy voting who kind of see themselves a little bit more in movies like The Fabelmans or The Artist, or these other types of movies that, we kind of refer to as Oscar bait. And I'm not here to tell you that Astrobot is the equivalent of Oscar bait or not, but in a world where Astrobot kind of reminds you about the things that you like about video games, I think it's really easy for a game like Astrobot or even Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to come along and remind you about what you like about video games so much that it ends up being in serious contention for stuff like Game of the Year. This is not me saying that those games don't deserve it. This is not me saying that those games aren't good or anything like that. I just think we now have a clearer idea, I should say, of what, the voting jury in the Game Awards kind of comes to expect from games. And I don't necessarily know if they're looking for something that is incredibly innovative or different or weird, compared to what, reminds them of their childhood and of their youth. I would like to see some changes and some improvements from the Game Awards. I think, for one, the awards that they have on the pre-show are not, I don't think you should have stuff like, because I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Games for Impact and the Innovation and Accessibility, and the Best Fighting Game were all on the pre-show. And I really feel like you should just not do that. Like, Best Esports Team on the pre-show, Best Esports Athlete, Best Esports Game, Content Creator of the Year, Most Anticipated Game of the Year, like that is all fine to have on the pre-show. But I think you should do a better job of representing games that were, and again, I could be wrong about innovation and accessibility. I'm blanking on a moment if it was there or not, but like Games for Impact, if you are trying to, encourage people to make games that tell stories that are, outside of the status quo, that are challenging, that are provocative, that are, representative of represent things that we don't often see in games, and then giving that award on the pre-show, it's just gross. It's just gross, in my humble opinion. So there are a lot of things that I would like to see improved from the Game Awards. I think this is one of the better Game Awards shows that they've done. It is also too damn long, but remember that like it is an award ceremony that is primarily in the business of selling you advertisements, right? Whether those advertisements come in the form of new game trailers like the new Naughty Dog game, or the literal ads and commercials that you see for like the Lenovo HP Yoga gaming laptop in between like award segments and stuff, like it is in the business of selling you advertisements, and you are being advertised to. And in fact, you are the product that they are celebrating more than the actual games, and that will never change. But it would be nice to see them put a little bit more effort into celebrating the games. They have come some ways since then. This is the 10th one that they've done. They have a lot of room to grow. But I still left disappointed about the way some of the games and some of the awards specifically were represented. I'm not going to sit here and argue about Balatro not winning or whatever. Like it's fine. I've said my piece about the idea of, there being perhaps a narrow focus, a narrow scope of what the review jury, the whatever, the judges you want to call them, what they're looking for out of games. And also there's some great games that like I think Buckshot Roulette is a great game. I think Buckshot Roulette is a great game. Nowhere is it mentioned in this, category at all. Right. So we'll see, I don't think Thank Goodness You're Here is an incredible game, but it would have been cool to see potentially. UFO 50, another game that no love shown whatsoever to UFO 50, which is in fairness a game I haven't played. Let's move on. Let's cover the things that were shown at the Game Awards. I got a list. I've checked it twice. Netflix is making a Squid Game. Squid Game Unleashed. It'll be free for everyone at launch. Midnight Murder Club is coming to PS5 and Steam in early 2025. What else we got here? Sorry, I fucked up this list. Dying Light. They confirmed that Dying Light the Beast will be released in 2025. Steel Paws is a new mobile game from Yu Suzuki. If you haven't seen that episode of Pac-Man on Secret Level yet, they've now confirmed that a new Pac-Man game called Shadow Labyrinth, which is a science fiction 2D action platformer, has been announced, which is inspired or based off of the Secret Level episode. Ninja Gaiden Rage Bound has been announced for a summer 2025 release. I'm almost sounded like Mike Tyson with this. Thick Thieves. God, Mike Tyson, please don't kill me. Thick as Thieves, not Thick Ass Thieves, but Thick as Thieves is the next game from the Deus Ex and Thief lead studio Other Side. Sifu, the company that made Sifu, has announced Rematch, which is a 5 versus 5 online football game. Not at all like Sifu. They officially unveiled The Witcher 4 at the Game Awards. You will be playing as Ciri, who has been recast in The Witcher 4. There's a long CGI trailer, no gameplay or anything like that announced, but it says to be rendered using an unannounced NVIDIA GPU, so we're not too sure what graphics card was even being used, but this shouldn't be a surprise considering they announced that The Witcher 4 is entering full production and all this stuff, but it has been confirmed that the game will focus on Ciri. You will be playing as Ciri in the new game. They announced a new cooperative standalone Elden Ring game called Night Rain. You can either play it as 1 player or 3 player, and it is a multiplayer action game spin-off set in the Elden Ring world. They confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming to PC next month, which is big because that means I got 2 games to look forward to on PC for next year. I'm talking about Spider-Man 2 and Final Fantasy VII are coming to PC, which is really exciting. I think both of those are in January, which is crazy. I think both of those are January. Man, oh man, a guy can't catch a break. But anyways, I'm looking forward to that. The Ico and Shadow of the Colossus creator Fumito Ueda has revealed his next game called Project Robot. There's not a lot to go off of, but that is what they're doing. The studio that made It Takes Two, Hazelight, has announced their new co-op game called Split Fiction. They showed off more of The Outer Worlds 2, which reminds me that I should finish and play through The Outer Worlds 1. Wargaming has announced a new game called Steel Hunters. It is a free-to-play mech hero shooter. Gearbox showed off more of the first Borderlands 4 gameplay trailer. It looks a lot like Borderlands, and I gotta be honest, I think I'm done being excited for new Borderlands games. I think Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is where I'll stop playing, or it'll be the last game of theirs I play until they make something that looks more interesting, but we shall see. The Like a Dragon studio Ryo Gatoko is working on 2 new games. They're making a new Virtua Fighter. They're also making a new game called Project Century, which may or may not be based in the Yakuza Like a Dragon world, but it definitely seems like it has a lot of influences in, from the Yakuza games. And that's on top of the Like a Dragon pirate game that's coming out later this year. So they're working on like 3 goddamn games over there. Good for them. Turok is back, but this time it is a third-person game called Turok Origins. They confirmed that Warframe 1999 is out this week. That is the new update for the free-to-play third-person action game Warframe. Capcom has announced Onimusha: A Way of the Sword, which is coming out in 2026. Overcooked is making a new... the Overcooked studio is making a new game called Stage Fright, and it's going to be published by the creators of No Man's Sky, Hello Games. Sony also confirmed that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is finally coming to PC in April. Sonic Racing Crossworlds has officially been announced. No other details around that yet. However, I'm excited because Sonic Racing All-Stars Transformed is a very good game. If you can't watch the video version, just know I'm giving a thumbs up. They confirmed more about the Mafia: The Old Country game, which has revealed the protagonist and the plot. I believe it's also been referred to as a linear game. I don't believe it is an open world game the same way that 2 and 3 were, but I could be wrong, but I don't believe it is. And in fairness, the first Mafia game wasn't that open world anyways. What else we got? Hideki Kamiya's new studio Clovers is working with Capcom on an Okami sequel. Okami 2 is coming, y'all. And the biggest reveal at the award show was Naughty Dog's next game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. And I gotta be honest with you, this is gonna sound harsh. When it comes to the retro future, aesthetic, and when I say retro future, I'm meaning like this like big chunky looking technology world that is in the future, but also features a lot of product placement like, Adidas shoes or Reebok or Sony, Walkmans or, Dell computers or whatever. Like when it's like chunky looking technology world, but still has these retro aesthetics to it and features a lot of product placement to try to ground it. I think I'm over that. I like Alien and I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't know if I need that in a lot of other universes and games and media and worlds, to be honest. Like, I just don't need it. So unfortunately, when I was looking at the Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet trailer, it felt pretty flat in my opinion. Now, in fairness, a lot of these announcements shown to the Game Awards are not nearly as exciting as you might think if you actually stop to think about what you watched, because there's a good chance that what you watched was a cutscene trailer that does not actually show any gameplay footage whatsoever. And in fact, those cutscenes that you saw may not even be indicative of what the cutscenes are going to look like once the main game is out. And Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet is no exception in that regard. So if you don't mind me being a little cynical and a little jaded, one, these game announcements are so easy to forget when you don't actually see any gameplay footage, which is more common in the Game Awards than something like Summer Game Fest, because the Game Awards is saying, hey, this game's not coming out till next year. This game's not coming out till this time next year. This game's not coming out till 2026, right? So you could see a scenario where Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet is debuted at the Game Awards, and then the first gameplay is shown at the next Game Awards, and then maybe by the third Game Awards that it's been presented at, it will be finally winning awards or whatever, right? Like, it is a very slow process, and Naughty Dog in particular have been very slow to make a new game since The Last of Us Part 2. Remains to be seen how it is, but it is a futuristic sci-fi sort of thing that they're going on with Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. I just, when you see the main character driving a Porsche and listening to a Sony tape or disc or whatever they were doing, and like, they got Adidas shoes on or whatever, I'm just like, man, but it's like future. It's like, I don't need it. I don't care anymore. Like, you're never going to do it as good as Back to the Future 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy or Alien. And I just I don't care. Do something else. Do literally anything else. In my humble opinion, that sounds harsh. Maybe the game's going to be great. There's a very good chance that it will be great because Naughty Dog tends to do great work, and this is their first brand new thing in forever. But it still remains to be seen. I'm curious to see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if I eat my words by the time everything is said and done, but we shall see. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a hell of a lot more news, so stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I continue to be GnittWitt, and we continue to talk about the world of video games. What do we have next? Not to be outdone by Sony, by Microsoft, by everybody else who's doing these, kind of year-in reviews. It's been confirmed now that the Nintendo Switch year-in review 2024 is now available for those looking to see what they played on their Nintendo console. This will probably be the last time that, people do a significant year-in review of the Switch console itself, because all signs point to a new Nintendo Switch console, a Switch 2 perhaps, coming out sometime next year, roughly in the spring, but it remains to be seen. But anyways, for those who played a lot of Nintendo Switch games this year, hey, that's awesome. And now you can look at all your stats if you like doing that. Speaking of 2025, Xbox could hold another Developer Direct showcase in January. Reporters are expecting an Xbox event in early 2025. The company first held its Xbox Developer Direct event in January 2023. It then did a second one in January 2024. So there's probably a good guess that they'll do another one in January of 2025. This is Tom Warren from The Verge talking about this on Blue Sky, saying, quote, feels like Microsoft has finally hit a good cadence with Xbox Game Pass releases, especially with recent drops like Indiana Jones and what's ahead in 2025. And then for context, in terms of what you can expect from Microsoft going forward, they have Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, The Dark Ages, Towerborn, Fable, Outer Worlds 2, and more are coming next year. I'm also expecting an Xbox event in January. Again, this is Tom Warren saying that. Whether it's just an assumption based on Xbox's recent history of holding events, or it's informed by insider knowledge, it's not clear yet, but Warren isn't the only reliable source who thinks Xbox has an event coming in early 2025. Earlier this month, Windows Central executive editor Jez Corden said Microsoft wasn't planning many first-party announcements at the Game Awards, pending Xbox's own Dev Direct in Q1. I guess we just get into the Microsoft news now, because they came out and said a whole lot of stuff about Xbox and exclusivity, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who said that Xbox, this is a quote, it's more of a claim than a quote. Let's see if I can actually nail down who said this, but basically Xbox won't have exclusives going forward. There is no Xbox first-party game that isn't planned for PlayStation as well. Now, this is according to Jez Corden over at Windows Central, who discussed his understanding of Microsoft's first-party strategy in a series of Twitter posts. Jez claims Xbox won't have exclusives going forward. Everything is timed exclusive at most. If some games are exclusives, it's going to be incidental at best. The case-by-case argument is by and large going to be multi-platform, timed, and maybe a few, very few outliers. And responding to a user who said they didn't believe Xbox's upcoming Fable game would come to PlayStation, Jez Corden wrote, the game was monstrously expensive. It might not be day one, but it'll come with the current plan in place, in my opinion. Xbox first announced in February plans to bring a wave of games to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, and what appeared to be a significant change of strategy, starting with Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. Later, Microsoft announced that Doom: The Dark Ages for Xbox Series X and S, PC, and PS5. It also confirmed that a PS5 version of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will be released next year. Last month, Microsoft's gaming CEO Phil Spencer reiterated that the company won't rule out any first-party Xbox game potentially coming to rival platforms such as PlayStation and Nintendo in the future. Matt Booty, Microsoft president of game content and studios, also told Variety this month, quote, "We are very much making the exclusivity and windowing decisions on a game by game basis. And each of our studios is in a little bit of a different position. There's also the production timeline on a game, so the decision on spacing comes there first. We want to make sure there's a great experience for our Xbox players, and then the gap between when it becomes available on PlayStation is as much a production decision as it is anything else." So I guess the idea is that maybe they don't start developing the Xbox version, the PlayStation version until later. That's kind of what I'm hearing is that, and I'm going to read that quote. And then the gap between when it becomes available on PlayStation is as much a production decision as it is anything else. So potentially this idea that they don't start development on the PlayStation version immediately, but switch over to it at some point in the development process, which may contribute to it coming out at a later date. To be honest, the architecture on those platforms is so similar that I don't know if I really buy it, but they probably want some space anyways to encourage people to do things like get Game Pass. So I get it. What else we got to talk about in news? Helldivers 2 got a new update. They are doing a crossover event with Killzone 2. It has been officially announced that Helldivers 2 and Killzone 2 are having a crossover event. The collaboration will reportedly launch alongside the Righteous Revenant's War Bond. You can get a couple of things. You can buy some cosmetics. You can get, the Hellgas outfit, the Hellgas S2A52 assault rifle, and a couple other things. It's a reminder, if anything, that Sony has not made a Killzone game in 10 years, and Killzone Shadowfall is pretty good. It's not quite as good as Killzone 2 or Killzone 3. I would love a new Killzone game, but it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon, with Guerrilla Games fully invested in the Horizon Zero Dawn world. If you don't remember, prior to the existence of Horizon, Guerrilla Games were working on the Killzone games, and I think Killzone 2 and Killzone 3 are phenomenal first-person shooters, just some of the best that PlayStation had to offer. I said we were going to talk about Black Myth Wukong, and damn it, we're going to do that because the director of Black Myth Wukong has expressed disappointment over losing the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards. The director claims that he wrote his Game Awards victory speech 2 years ago. Now, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of anyone. I'm just reading what's been reported. Do not take this as like me trying to be a fanboy or something of Black Myth, against Black Myth Wukong. Like, I haven't played the game. I don't care to play the game. I don't care to play Black Myth Wukong. I don't care. But this news came up. I'm going to report on it. Here's what happened. The Black Myth Wukong director Feng Ji has posted a lengthy statement thanking fans for their support following the Game Awards and expressing disappointment that the game's science action title didn't come away with the headline Game of the Year award. In a post on the Chinese social media site Weibo, which has been machine translated, Feng Ji reportedly claims that he even wrote his acceptance speech for the Game Awards 2 years ago. The post reportedly reads, "In the end, it won Best Picture and Player's Voice." Oh yeah, that was the other thing, is there was a fan voted Game of the Year award, and that went to Black Myth Wukong. Anyways, in the end, it won Best Action and Player's Voice, especially the Player's Voice, which is gratifying. But I must admit there are disappointments and regrets. The games nominated this year are excellent, but I really don't understand the selection criteria for this year's Game of the Year. I came here for nothing. From yesterday to now, I've seen strong dissatisfaction, unwillingness, and unhappiness in the comments of many players. Most of them expressed a humorous and deconstructive way, which is hilarious, the translation continues. Quote, "I can fully understand this unwillingness to sympathize with this unhappiness because I know that behind these emotions it is not pain and malice, but self-esteem and self-confidence." And just to clarify, it is unclear if the tone of the post was sarcastic or joking, as several phrases in the post are humorous in tone. So I'm not too sure. I don't quite know. Like, we don't often get a lot of comments from developers expressing dissatisfaction or being upset about somebody did comment saying that one of the team members for Black Myth Wukong was crying when Astrobot won Game of the Year. And again, I can't confirm one way or the other. I didn't see that when I watched the award show. So, I don't know, but, you don't see a lot of these comments because usually game developers know better than to talk. They often keep their mouths shut, something that the developers over at Black Myth Wukong, developer Game Science, have not done. They have a history of putting their foot in their mouth multiple times. It could be a cultural thing. It could be a whatever thing. I don't know. But they have talked more than a lot of developers this year have about a variety of topics. If you want to learn more about what the Black Myth Wukong developers have to say about things, you can go find that yourself. I'm not here to talk about it. I am simply talking about the fact that they seemingly could not accept the fact that they lost Game of the Year, wrote a speech 2 years ago, and then reacted in a negative way, is quite surprising because you don't see this with a lot of game developers. Typically, it is unfortunate. And if there is a misunderstanding, hopefully that is cleared up. I would love to be wrong about what I'm reporting on in this scenario. However, it doesn't seem like it so far, considering it's been almost a week and nothing new has come up about this. Got a couple more news stories. Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, which is the multiplayer optional cooperative online hack and slash action game, will be delisted. The Dark Alliance servers will go offline when the game is pulled from sale early in 2025. However, I went looking for it on Steam and I couldn't find it. Like, it shows up in the search history. Okay, now it shows up. Anyways, the game has not been pulled from sale yet, but it will be pulled from sale in early 2025, in which case you will not be able to play the game online if you are looking to do so. Or if you own DLC and you own the game, it will continue to be available. That's fine. This is the final news story. And when I mean final news story, I mean, brother, this is, if this turns out to be true, this is quite the news. There are people that try to scrape data pertaining to updates and future plans for Fortnite. People do that for a lot of online multiplayer games, right? People are trying to figure out who the next character in Call of Duty is or what's the next update happening in Grand Theft Auto. And usually I don't report on that stuff because I don't play those games. But this is an interesting one. The people that try to leak information about the future updates for Fortnite say that Mariah Carey is coming to Fortnite. I'll say that again. The reports are that rumors state that Mariah Carey is coming to Fortnite. On top of that, you're also getting a Santa version of Shaquille O'Neal, as well as a Christmas version of Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, by the way, pulling double duty at the Game Awards. He not only presented an award, I forget which award it was. He might have done multiplayer? I forget. He also rapped, and I'll tell you, that man rapped his ass off at the Game Awards. I'll tell you, Snoop Dogg has become too powerful. Like, no, seriously, when you think about, like, I've said this before, like, Snoop Dogg is the new Bob Hope. He's the new whatever. He just shows up and he does everything. He's doing the Olympics. He's selling smokeless grills. He's at the Game Awards. They also said that apparently Death Row Games, like Death Row Records, have a gaming division now. He said that at the Game Awards. I had never heard that before, but apparently Snoop Dogg is gonna get into making video games or publishing video games. But at the Game Awards, Snoop Dogg was there. He rapped and presented an award. And the other thing I should mention is that Troy Baker was there presenting the Game Award for Best Performance. And all of a sudden, Harrison Ford shows up, and Harrison Ford looked like he had been hanging out with Snoop Dogg, partying with Snoop Dogg prior to his arrival. But an absolute legend, Harrison Ford. He did a great job presenting, though he did at one point tell the teleprompter to hurry up because he had rambled on for a little bit. But listen, the fact that they got fucking Harrison Ford to show up is incredible. Harrison Ford is great. And also Troy Baker does an incredible job as Indiana Jones in The Great Circle. And they kind of riffed on that for a little bit of like, I think Harrison Ford said like, oh, if I had known that Troy Baker would be so good at playing me, I would have just done it myself or something. It was fun. But anyways, Snoop Dogg. What are we talking about? Mariah Carey's coming to Fortnite, y'all. Look for that. Or don't. I don't know. All right. What I want to do now, before we take our final break, is kind of cover what you can expect from me and the Game of the Year award show that I'm going to be doing next week. I have compiled to the best of my ability, and I don't think these are actually. This is not. I have a list here. Like I'm literally looking at a list here. But I don't think this is going to end up being the list. I'm not going to mention any nominees. So basically, long story short, I'm here to present you with the categories without the nominees. So this year, here are the awards you can expect. We have the What's Old is New Again Game of the Year. This can be a game that had previously come out that I played a lot of. It could be a game that has seen significant updates. It could be a game that came to a new platform. So for example, something like Horizon Forbidden West, coming to PC, a game that I have not had a chance to play until it came to PC. That could be something that's considered. We have the best game I didn't get a chance to play this year. These are games that came out in 2024 that I did not have a chance to play either because it came to a platform that wasn't available or I didn't have time or whatever the case may be. We have most anticipated game. We're gonna do a most anticipated game. We're going to do a most disappointing game. We're gonna do a best surprise. We are going to do biggest news story, best time sink. So that can be a game that whether it's been continually updated or recently came out as a game that just you start playing it and you can't stop. It just digs into you deeper and deeper. Maybe it has a lot of content. Maybe it continues to be updated. Maybe it's very easy to pick up and play, repeatable content, stuff like that. We have best vibes. Now, best vibes means a lot of things. That can be sound, music, art design, direction, tone, sense of humor. That's kind of what that is. We have worst game. That's the worst game that I played. I should mention that DLC is also included in this. So in some cases, I may be nominating a game that is DLC expansion or something like that. And that can apply to any and all categories. So for example, if something like so I'm not going to tip my hand, but if something like that Starfield Shattered Space DLC were to show up in worst game, I'm just saying. And then we have my top 5 game of the year 2024 list, with the number 1 game being the best game. That will be an ordered ranked system. Every other category, with the exception of so what we're going to do is with the exception of most anticipated game and best game I didn't get a chance to play, everything and game of the year, everything else will be three nominees. So for example, What's Old is New Again, we're going to have 2 runners up and then the award. For most disappointing, 2 runners up and the winner, right? So that's kind of how we're going to do it. There's going to be 5 nominees, one of them being a winner. For game of the year, there will be 5 nominees and 1 will be the winner for most anticipated game. 5 nominees, 1 will be the winner for best game of the day and chance to play. So that's kind of what the plan Welcome back to the podcast. I drink coffee that was so cold it might as well have been iced coffee. That's what I get for talking too much. Let's talk about the games that I've been playing. The game that I've primarily been playing is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I am maybe 2/3 of the way through Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I am in the second environment in Indiana Jones. So again, the way that it kind of works is you do your intro, kind of tutorial area, which is a damn near shot for shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark, that opening scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then you move on to kind of establish like Indiana Jones's school and where he's teaching. And then you go to the Vatican, and then you go to another place. And then there's one other location that I haven't got to yet. I'm about 16 hours into the game. And like I said, I've done a lot of stuff. I did spend some time sneaking around and doing some stuff, taking my time, though I have, tried to, kind of mainline a lot more of this game now as I try to get closer and closer to the end. So that's why I have made a lot more progress than I did last week, because last week I ran around the Vatican and I tried to do damn near every side quest, find every collectible that I could. Now that I'm in this new environment, I have not spent as much time doing it because I just want to see that story through to the end. And if I go back and pick up some more, side quests and stuff, I will. But that's kind of where I'm at with Indiana Jones. One thing I'll mention on the podcast that I mentioned last week is I found that the combat, especially the hand-to-hand combat, to be fairly mushy, right? It just felt very squishy and very button mashy. Having spent more time with it, that is not the case. One of the things that I failed to realize is that you punch with the L2, R2, or the left trigger, right trigger, and those are supposed to represent your hands. So if you want to throw a left-handed punch or a right-handed punch, you use the triggers accordingly. I just spent my whole time trying to punch with my right hand, which was why sometimes the enemies were easier to block my attacks or dodge out of my attacks, because I wasn't swinging in a way that was very predictable. You ever been a predictable swinger? Anyways, so as a result, I have gotten a better honing of those controls and that combat. The other thing I realized is if you're not using your fisticuffs, there are melee weapons everywhere. Like almost any sort of combat environment, any place that you can go to for fighting, there is probably, a guitar or a wrench or a sledgehammer or something you can use to beat up the enemies is going to be a lot faster. The other thing I didn't quite realize until I was in over my head is that you really shouldn't be shooting a lot of guns in that game if you can avoid it. The reason for that is because even if an enemy has a gun on them, there is a chance that they're not going to use it and instead try to punch you or do melee attacks against you. But if you pull out that gun and start shooting people, it escalates that combat encounter quite a bit until next thing you know, you are outmanned and outgunned. Because one of the things that separates something like Indiana Jones compared to Wolfenstein or other first-person shooters is the limited nature of the ammo. And I'm specifically talking about single-use guns. So let me give you an example. You can reload your revolver as long as you have bullets. It's a slow reloading revolver because it's the 1930s. When you pick up an enemy gun like a rifle or a submachine gun or a pistol, you cannot reload that gun. So if you pick up a Nazi pistol, it's going to have 8 shots in it. And once it has 8 shots, that's it. You can use it as a melee weapon to club and beat your enemy, or you can throw it or drop it, and then you can pick up another pistol. But you are never reloading guns unless it is your gun in that game. So it very much becomes this kind of puzzle of like, okay, I'm going to, maybe I did cause too much damage. Now they're trying to shoot me. So I'm going to beat this guy up. I'm going to throw I'm going to whip the gun out of the guy's hand. I'm going to grab the gun. I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to then use the butt of this, submachine gun to beat the guy next to me who doesn't have a gun. So I don't have to worry about shooting him just yet. I'm going to take out the sniper. I'm going to take out this rifleman. I'm going to blow up this barrel and do all this stuff. And then throw the gun away because I'm not going to need it because I don't have the ammo. And then I'm going to go back to punching, or I'm going to pick up something or whatever, right? Because you can use every gun, including your gun, as a melee weapon. And if you pick up a Nazi gun, you can also throw that gun once you're done. So it's almost, I don't want to describe it in this way because it's not quite as slick. It's a very rough and tumble sort of way of, engaging in combat. But like how John Wick is like constantly, reloading and throwing away weapons and like constantly repositioning and reorganizing his tool set while doing combat. Like it's kind of like that if you think about it in terms of like whip the gun out of the guy's hand, shoot the gun, throw the gun away once the ammo is done, pick up the sledgehammer, hit this guy, and then toss the sledgehammer, because also the weapons break, right? Like anytime you pick up a gun and you use it or anytime you pick up a weapon, whether it's a melee weapon or a ranged weapon, and you use it as a melee weapon, it can only be used a certain amount of time before it breaks. So you have to use a scenario of like, okay, I can get 4 hits with this shovel before it breaks. So maybe I hit it 3 times and then throw it. It breaks on the guy. You can also get like perks and upgrades for Indiana Jones where like, oh, when your weapon breaks, it does extended damage upon breaking and all this other stuff. So there is more to the combat than I initially thought. And then the thing I realized is like, yeah, you probably want to be stealthy where you can, and you probably aren't going to want to shoot a lot because shooting will attract everybody to your area and they will probably gun you down because you are not a shooter dude the way you are in Call of Duty, which I think is, pretty accurate to what the Indiana Jones character is. But you might trick yourself into thinking it is a first-person shooter and try to shoot your way through it, and it usually doesn't work. Puzzle system I found to be far easier than I initially thought. One of the nice things about the puzzle system is you get a camera in the game. Pretty early on, you get a camera. And the way the camera works is you can take pictures of the environment, and there's collectibles associated with taking pictures. But when you're in an area that uses a puzzle, the more you take pictures of the puzzle, the more detailed the clues and hints are about what you're supposed to do until you take enough pictures and it outright just tells you what to do. And I think that is a very, very smart system because I am very, very stupid when it comes to puzzles and I have damn near no patience. So the idea that can kind of guide you by the hand until eventually just kind of does it for you, well, not does it for you, but tells you exactly verbatim what to do is incredibly helpful. I found the puzzles in Indiana Jones of the Great Circle to be far easier than something like the Tomb Raider puzzles or the Uncharted puzzles as a result because of that incredible help system. So really enjoying it. I will say I don't find the second area of the game to be nearly as interesting from an interior and an exterior exploration, look under every rock, see every mystery sort of feeling that the Vatican City provided in the first level of the game. There are 3 main levels, 3 open environments that you're going to run around in from the looks of things. You can travel back to those areas if you want. So for example, if you left the Vatican early and you didn't do all the side quests, you didn't, take pictures, if you didn't find there's like a missing cat that's been adopted by the Vatican priests. And if you haven't found that missing cat, you can always go back and do that if you wanted to after. If you haven't done the Nazi boxing tournament or whatever in the Vatican, you can always go back and do that stuff, which is cool. I just don't find that the side content in the second environment is as exciting as the first one. Whether that is a me thing or a game thing, it remains to be seen, but it does allow me to focus on that main story. And I gotta be honest, that main story, I don't quite know what's going on. I don't quite get it. The bad guy seems like a pretty bad guy. I would like to stop him. I would like to defeat him. I would like to do all this stuff. It just maybe hasn't quite grabbed me yet. Maybe it's going to grab me in the last third of the game. I don't know. I think it's a great game. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's a really awesome game. I've really enjoyed the stealth. I've really enjoyed the melee combat. I've enjoyed exploring and running around. It's just, I think as a complete package, it is great. It just, I maybe haven't quite felt a significant emotional attachment. Maybe it's because I'm not the biggest Indiana Jones guy. I don't know. It is the best Indiana Jones thing I've experienced in forever, so there is that. But I think that main story leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not perfect, but I'm still really enjoying it. So for now, big thumbs up. And I would also say that, in all honesty, despite what I said, some of my negative feelings, Indiana Jones is easily a Game of the Year contender. In my opinion, it is a fantastic game, no matter how you slice it. That is going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, all of that stuff in one convenient location. Come on back, because we're going to be streaming Fallout New Vegas on Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We might even do some streaming on Thursday morning. I haven't had a chance to confirm that just yet. I would like to play through that Alan Wake 2 DLC for Game of the Year consideration, but I haven't done so yet. Hopefully I can do that hopefully I can do that tomorrow. In all honesty, and if you have missed Fallout New Vegas, New Year New Vegas, check it out over on YouTube. All the episodes will be archived for you to watch in their complete run over at YouTube. Though, however, I've been listening to some of the radio stations in Fallout New Vegas, and those use some licensed music, and YouTube has hit me with a couple of copyright issues for the licensed music in that game. You can still watch the videos. I'm not like in trouble. My account's fine, yada, yada, yada. But there might be some segments of the video that have been completely muted because of that copyright music. But regardless, those videos are up in their entirety with maybe some audio issues for some of the songs in the game. What else is there to talk about? Like I said, we're going to do the, now that I think about it, now that I look at the calendar, I should probably do the Game of the Year. I don't know why it doesn't want to show me the calendar now. What the fuck? Oh, there we go. Now that I'm seriously looking at the game of the remainder of the calendar for next year, I am seriously considering doing the Game of the Year podcast on the 26th, live on the 26th, instead of doing it on the Friday, because now I'm doing Fallout Fridays and I really don't want to be sitting and streaming for like 4 or 5 hours. It's probably not ideal, especially considering we went live and like played Fallout New Vegas for like 2.5 hours or so last week. So it's a lot of streaming, a lot of content in the future, but nonetheless, we are going to do it and we're going to do it right. So just to confirm, come on back Thursday morning. I'm hoping to do a Alan Wake 2 stream. Come on back Friday morning and we're going to do some Fallout Fridays. Come on back next Thursday morning and we're going to do the Game of the Year podcast, and then come on back on the 27th for the Fallout New Vegas episode 3. We are going to not do a podcast for the next 2 weeks, and I'm now going to confirm with you now because Christmas is on the Wednesday and New Year's is on the Wednesday, so we will not do a regular podcast for 2 whole weeks, but there'll be plenty of content if you'd like to check that out. Like I said, Alan Wake 2 stream tomorrow, Fallout Fridays every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the Game of the Year podcast on Thursday, the 26th. That's going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. Happy holidays. We will see you all in the new year if you only listen to the regular episodes of the Glitch Report podcast. But I'll still be doing things well into the new year. Take it easy. Happy gaming. We made it.